Very, very good morning to all of you, my friends. Welcome back. So, today I'll be starting with a new chapter that is activity-based costing. Now, this chapter is in continuation of the chapter that is overheads. I hope you guys are thorough with the concepts of overhead. So now let's start with activity-based costing. Further, I request you guys to please keep your study material with you. I'll be discussing most of the questions from study material. Now, one more thing, there are hardly any concepts in activity-based costing. So these two sessions will be more on practical-based questions. So be ready with your study material. So let's start, guys, with activity-based costing. Very good morning, Pranav. Very good morning, Nitish. So now let's start with this chapter, activity-based costing. Now see, what we used to do in overheads. What you guys used to do in overhead is that we used to identify the total overheads. That is whatever it is, be it rent, be it depreciation, be it electricity, be it insurance, be it repairs. So let's say these are the overheads. What you guys used to do? You used to distribute it among various production departments, let's say P1, P2, P3. Further, let's say there were two service departments also, S1 and S2. So what we used to do in overheads, since overheads are incurred as a whole, so what we used to do in overheads, we used to distribute the overheads among various production department and various service department. Now, once the overheads are distributed, the overheads of the service department are reapportioned to the production department. And after reapportioning the overheads of the service department to the production department, we used to calculate the total overheads of the production department. So once the total overheads were ready, we used to absorb the overheads via basis of absorption. Either it can be on the basis of labor hours or machine hours or whatever it is. So this was the process what we used to follow in overheads. That is, first one is allocation, apportionment. Second one is the reapportionment of overheads of service department to the production department. And once we are ready with the final figures of the production department, we used to absorb the overheads. Thereafter, we used to calculate the absorption rate, and that absorption rate is used to charge the overheads of these production department to a particular product, to a particular job, to calculate the total cost. So this was the process what we used to follow in overheads. Now, this chapter, activity-based costing, says that how can you absorb the overheads, all the overheads on a single basis. That is, in simple terms, सारे overheads को एक ही basis पे कैसे absorb कर सकते हैं. See, rent has nothing to do with machine hours. Let's say rent has nothing to do with machine hours. Insurance of stock has nothing to do with machine hours. So this activity-based costing says, how can you absorb all the overheads on a single basis? That is, let's say here in production department P1, I have absorbed all the overheads on the basis of labor hours. So this activity-based costing says कि आप सारे overheads एक ही basis पे कैसे absorb कर सकते हैं. I have a better approach. So this is what activity-based costing says. So now, what is the approach of activity-based costing? Activity-based costing says that instead of absorbing all the overheads using a single basis, I have a better plan. What it says, that first identify the activities of the organization. What activity-based costing says? That first identify the activities of organization. Organization क्या-क्या activities करती है? Let's say material handling can be an activity. Let's say setup cost can be an activity. So what it says, first, I request you guys to first open your study material. 1 second, guys. One minute, guys. So what activity-based costing says, sorry guys, what activity-based costing says that instead of absorbing all the overheads using a one base or one basis, I have a better approach. What better approach? It says first identify the activities of organization. Let's say material handling can be an activity, setup cost can be an activity, machining cost can be an activity. Further, let's say assembling cost can be an activity. Supervision, or we can say inspection, can be an activity. So first of all, what you have to do in activity-based costing, that first identify the activities of the organization. Organization क्या-क्या activity करता है. Now, whatever the cost that are associated with that particular activity will be grouped together to form a cost pool. So इस एक्टिविटी के रिलेटेड जो भी कॉस्ट है उसकी हम लोग टोटल लगाएंगे और उसको हम लोग क्या बोलेंगे, कॉस्ट पूल. सो व्हाटएवर द कॉस्ट that are associated with a particular activity will be grouped together to form cost pool. So this is how we will get the total overheads. So first thing, identify the activities of the organization. Second thing, whatever the costs that are associated with a particular activity will be grouped together to form a cost pool. Now, very important, for every activity, there will be a separate basis of absorption. हर एक्टिविटी का एक separate basis होगा. Unlikely what we used to do in overheads, we used to calculate the total overheads divided by only one basis of absorption, either labor hours or machine hours. But activity-based costing says for every activity, there will be a separate basis of absorption. So for this activity, there will be a separate basis of absorption. For this activity, there will be a separate basis of absorption. हर एक्टिविटी का एक सेपरेट बेसिस होगा absorption का. And this is how we will thereafter we will calculate the absorption. So I repeat again, in traditional system of costing, or what we used to do in overheads, total overheads divided by basis of absorption, either machine hours, labor hours, or on the basis of prime cost, or on the basis of material cost, whatever it is. But in activity based costing, it says how can you absorb the overheads on a single basis. सारे overheads एक ही basis पे कैसे absorb कर सकते हैं. So the better approach is that first identify the activities of the organization. Whatever the costs that are related to an activity will be grouped together to form a cost pool. Third thing, for every activity, there will be a separate basis of absorption. हर activity के लिए basis of absorption जो होगा वो separate होगा. And once the basis of absorption is identified, we can easily calculate the absorption rate. So I hope you guys are thorough with the concepts of overhead, because this chapter is more or less related to overheads. So I'll be referring to the overheads part again and again. So this is what the concept of activity-based costing. Let me write the summary also. So see, there were two approaches, traditional approach, what we have learned in overheads. What we learned in approach overheads, what it says, total overheads divided by one basis of absorption. It can be either labor hours or machine. So this is what we used to do in overheads. That is the traditional approach, total overhead divided by only one basis of absorption that will be given in the question. Now, when talking about the activity-based costing, again, the chapter is very easy. Just follow the instructions. What I'm saying, you'll be able to solve these questions very easily. So what activity-based costing says? The first thing, identify the activities of the organization. What it says? Identify the activity of the organization. What you have to do first, identify the activities of the organization. Second thing, the cost that are associated with the activity, with a particular activity, will be grouped together to form a cost pool. The costs that are associated with a particular activity will be grouped together to form a cost pool. Now, first identify the activity, then the cost will be grouped together to form a cost pool. Now, third thing, very important. For every activity, there will be a separate basis of absorption. For every activity, there will be a separate basis of absorption. हर एक्टिविटी का सेपरेट बेसिस ऑफ अब्जॉर्प्शन होगा. Now, once it is done or once it is identified, we will calculate the absorption rate. That is the total amount divided by the units. It can be either labor hours also, it can be the number of setup also, it can be the number of production runs also. I'll be discussing this part. So thereafter we will calculate the absorption rate. And last thing, the absorption rate as calculated will be used to charge the overheads to a particular product or to a particular job to calculate the total cost. So the absorption rate as calculated will be used to charge the overheads. Charge the overheads to a particular product or job to calculate the total. Identify the activities, find cost pool. For every activity, there will be a separate basis of absorption known as cost driver. Known as cost driver. हर एक्टिविटी का एक सेपरेट बेसिस ऑफ अब्जॉर्प्शन होगा. वी कॉल इट एज अ कॉस्ट ड्राइवर. So what is cost driver? The basis of absorption for every activity. Once the cost driver is identified, we will calculate the absorption rate. And once absorption rate is calculated, the same process what we used to follow in overhead. That is, with the help of absorption rate, we will charge the overheads to a particular product or to a particular job to calculate the total cost. So these are the processes what we will be following in activity-based costing. If you guys have any doubts, you guys can please post your queries over the portal or over Zoom also. Anyone having any doubts? Admin sir? Admin sir, are you there? Chat enable कर दीजिए ना, please. Please enable the chat. If you guys have any doubts, you guys can please post your queries. I request you guys, whatever the doubts you have, दिमाग में कुछ भी चल रहा है, whatever it is, just ask me. I'm there to help you out. I mean, enough of the sessions are provided for every chapter. So I'll be discussing the concept part also and the practical part also. So whatever it is running in your mind, just post it. I'll try to address each and every query of yours. Great, Tejaswini. Good, Nitin. Anyone else having any doubts? Okay, yes. So there is a query, sir. Setup cost means installation cost. Yes, Karan Kumar. Whatever that is running in your mind, you can ask me. I'm there to help you out, guys. Sai, Kiran, Kumar, I think you are asking a question on overheads. So let me give you a brief. See, when talking about the distribution of overhead, there are two parts, primary distribution and secondary distribution. Primary distribution is allocation or apportionment. When talking about allocation, if the overheads are distributed directly, it is allocation. But when the overheads cannot be distributed directly, we need to apportion them. So thereafter we do apportionment. So when talking about primary distribution, when the overheads can be distributed directly, it is allocation. If cannot be distributed directly, then we have to apportion them. So this is the primary distribution. When talking about secondary distribution, it talks about the reapportionment of the overheads of the service department to the production department. Nayan Patil, I have recently taken a session on overheads in the revisionary class. So the lectures are available over YouTube. Since limited sessions were allocated, but yes, you can refer my sessions of overheads. You will be able to understand the concept thoroughly and deeply. Don't worry. So those who are like finding it a bit difficult, then you guys can refer to my sessions over YouTube. I have recently, in fact, yesterday only I finished overheads in a revisionary batch. So you guys can please refer. Cost driver is the basis of absorption. That is her cost. See, in short, what is cost driver? Just see, herein, in this, the basis of absorption was what? Labor hours or machine hours. So when talking about cost driver, it is also just like labor hours or machine hours, the basis of absorption. That is, किस basis पे overheads absorb करेंगे. Anyone else? So now, When talking about, see the first step, that is identify the activities of the organization. I should write activities. Identify the activities of the organization. This information will always be given in the question. No need to do the exercise of identify the activities. This information will be given in the question. Now, when talking about this part, that is the cost relating to a particular activity, this will also be given straight away in the question. This information will be given in the question. So half of the work is done, activities will be given. The cost relating to a particular activity will also be given in the question. Now, the third most important part, very important part, this is the trickiest part, guys. This is the trickiest part, that किस activity का क्या basis होगा absorption का, that you need to identify. What will be the basis of absorption for a particular activity? You have to identify. So this process requires practice and patience, and plus we can say the concepts also. So what will be the basis of absorption for a particular activity? That you need to identify or figure out. So this is given in the question. This is given in the question. This part is bit tricky, wherein you have to identify that किस activity का क्या basis होगा absorption. Now, once it is identified, we can easily calculate the absorption rate. So you have to calculate the absorption rate. And this process is very simple. So the most trickiest part is what? To identify the activities. So to identify what? The basis of absorption. To identify what will be the cost driver for a particular activity. See, allocation is a part of primary distribution. Allocation and apportionment is a part of primary distribution, my dear. I request you guys to please copy this explanation. So the question will be asking you to solve, the practical question will be like that: solve it via traditional approach and solve it via activity-based costing. So you guys have to be thorough with this process. I request you guys to please copy this explanation. That's okay, Aisha. You will be able to. Don't worry. Suvendu Ghosh, don't worry. I'll be discussing this part practically. Aisha Khan, don't worry. You will understand this chapter. It's a very easy chapter. So now this is all what about the concepts of concept of activity-based costing. This chapter is more on practical. Most of the part I'll be discussing with the practical problems only. As far as the concepts is concerned, this is all what about the concept of activity-based costing. Now let's start with the practical question. I request you guys to please open your study material. Manvi, whatever the costs that are associated with a particular activity will be grouped together to form a cost pool. I request you guys to please open your study material. Again, the chapter is very easy. ज़्यादा कुछ concepts नहीं है, तो please open your study material. I'll be discussing most of the questions of study material only. I'll be starting with illustration number 1. So let's start with illustration number 1, page number 5.14. I request you guys to please open the study material. जिसके पास भी hard copy नहीं है, better refer it over the. You guys can download it from Institute website. It's available. Page number 5.14. So let's start. Now, very important, guys. Always remember, half of the work is done if you read the question carefully. So the first step to solve the question is that read the question carefully. Each and every word of the question, read it very carefully. So let's start with illustration number 1. So ABC Limited is a multi-product company manufacturing 3 products, that is A, B, and C. The budgeted cost and the production for the year ending 31st March are as follows. So the production quantity is given for A, B, and C, that is 4,000, 3,000, and 1,600. Further, the raw material required in kgs and direct labor in minutes is given. So 4, 6, 3, and 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and 60 minutes. For the the budgeted direct labor rate was 10 per hour and budgeted material cost is rupees 2 per kg. Production overheads were budgeted at 99,450. So the production overheads are 99,450 and were absorbed to the product using direct labor hour rate. So this is what we used to do in overhead. Herein in this question, the instructions are given that the production overheads are to be absorbed on the basis of direct labor hour. So this process we used to follow in overheads and we call it as the traditional approach. Now, ABC Limited followed the absorption costing. So absorption costing is all what about overheads. Now, ABC Limited is now considering to adopt an activity-based costing. So earlier they were going through the traditional approach, that is absorption costing approach. Now they are planning to switch to activity-based costing. Now let's see what are the instructions that are given in the question, wherein the budgeted overheads were analyzed into the following. So there are 3 activities and the cost related to that activity is given. That is material handling cost, storage cost, and electricity cost. That is 21,100, 31,200, and 39,150. The total is 99,450. So in short, they have identified the activities and whatever the cost that is related to that activity is also given. The total cost, that is the total overhead is 99,450 is same, but the breakup is given in the form of activity wise. Now, हर एक्टिविटी का एक सेपरेट बेसिस ऑफ ऑब्जॉर्प्शन होगा. फॉर एवरी एक्टिविटी देयर विल बी अ सेपरेट बेसिस ऑफ ऑब्जॉर्प्शन. वी कॉल इट एज कॉस्ट ड्राइवर. सो see, the cost drivers are also given. For material handling activity, it is to be absorbed on the basis of weight of material handled. Second, storage cost, it is to be absorbed on the basis of number of batches of material. Electricity cost again on the basis of number of machine operation. Now we need the weight of material handled, first thing, the number of batches of material, and third, the number of machine operation. Now see, additional information is also given. For complete production, batches of material is given, that is 10, 5, and 15. And for per unit of production, number of machine operation is also given, that is 6, 3, and 2 for A, B, and C respectively. Now, prepare a statement for the management showing the unit cost and the total cost of each product using absorption costing method. So first thing what the question is asking, that we have to calculate the total cost and unit cost as per absorption costing system. So let's solve the first question, then we will read the second question. So let's start with the traditional approach or absorption costing method. Now, herein the material and the labor are given, we have to charge the overheads to A, B, and C to calculate the total cost. So see, it is given that the overheads are to be absorbed on the basis of labor hours. So herein, calculation of absorption rate. Herein, total overheads divided by, I'm using this labor hours because it is clearly mentioned in the question that you have to absorb the overheads on the basis of labor hours. So when talking about the labor hours, we need to calculate separately for A, B, and C. See, total units manufactured of A is 4,000 and every unit can be processed in 30 minutes. So 4,000 units into 30 minutes divided by 60, if we want to convert it into hours, so we will get 2,000 hours for A. I repeat again, every unit is processed in 30 minutes. It means half hour. So for 4,000 units, एक unit बनाने में आधा घंटा. So for 4,000 units, it is 2,000 hours. Similarly for B, 3,000 units and every unit is processed in 45 minutes. So 3,000 into 45 divided by 60. So total 2250 hours for B. And when talking about C, how many units are manufactured? 1,600. And one unit is processed in 1 hour. So 1,600. So we have got the total overheads now. So total overheads will be, sorry, we have got the total hours, 2,000 plus 2250 plus 1,600. So now, let's calculate the absorption rate. My overheads are how much? 99,450. My total labor hours are 5,850. So my absorption rate will be how much? 17 per hour. If you guys have any doubts till now, you guys can please post your queries. Waiting for your queries. This part you have already learned and overhead. Still, if you guys have any doubts, you guys can please post your query. Let me check. See, Ritika, there are two approaches. Either you can calculate the total cost using traditional approach, or you can calculate the total cost using activity-based costing. So it depends upon organization to organization that they are following the traditional approach or activity-based costing. So it depends upon organization to organization. But yes, if an organization is following traditional approach, they will continuously follow traditional approach only, unless and until they found activity-based costing more suitable and convenient and correct. Manvi, I am converting this into hours. The data is given in minutes. I am converting it into hours. That's why I have divided by 60. It is 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and 60 minutes. So I have to convert it into hour. That's why. Anyone else having any doubts? So now we are done with the calculation of absorption rate. So now we can calculate the total cost. Statement showing calculation of cost. So now we have to calculate the total cost of A, B, and C. So A, B. Now it's up to you. You can calculate it in per units also, or you can calculate it in aggregate also. So both the approaches are correct. So let's start with material cost. Herein, raw material required per unit is 4, and the budgeted material cost is rupees 2 per kg. So the cost per unit material consumption is 4, and the rate is rupees 2 per kg. So the total material, I mean the per unit material cost will be how much? 10. Sorry, 8. 4 into 2, 8. Again for B, the cost is 2 per kg and the material consumed is 6 kgs. So 6 into 2, 12. For C, it is 3 kgs and the cost is 2 per kg. So it is 6. For your reference, 4 into 2, 6 into 2, and 3 into 2. This rate is given in the question, and these are the kgs: 6 kgs, 4 kgs, and 3 kgs. Now let's start with labor cost. See, it is given 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and 60 minutes. However, the rate is given per hour. So 30 minutes, so we will convert it into first hours. So 30 divided by 60 into 10. We are dividing it by 60 because the rate is given per hour. So this will be 5. This is 45 minutes. So 45 divided by 60 into 10. So this will be 7.5. And this 60 minutes. So 60 divided by 60 into 10. So this will be 10. So we have got the material cost, labor cost. So let's make the total. 13. 16. If you guys have any doubts till now, you guys can please post your queries. Now let's say if we multiply it by units, My total units are how much? 4,000, 3,000, and 1,600. We'll get the total prime cost. $52,000. 58,500. 25,600. In this we need to add the overheads also. So overheads are absorbed on the basis of labor hour, and the rate is we have calculated is 17. Now total labor hours for A is 2,000. So for A, total labor hour is 2,000 and the absorption rate is 17 per hour. That is, overheads are charged at the rate 17 per hour. So 17 into 2, this will be 34,000. Again, for B, the labor hours are 2,250 into 17. This will be 38,250. And the third is 1,600 into 17. 27,200. So we will calculate the total cost, 52,000 plus 34,000. That is 86,000. 58,500 plus 38,250. This will be 96,750. 25,600 plus 27,200. It is 52,800. Now, if we divided it by number of units, we will get the per unit cost also. Number of units are this one, that is 4,000, 3,000, and 1,600. So this will be 33. This is total cost. This is 32.25. This will be 21.5. So this is the traditional system of costing that what you guys have learned in overhead. First, calculate the absorption rate and charge the overheads using that absorption rate to calculate the total cost. If you guys have any doubts till now, you guys can please post your queries. Waiting for your queries, guys. Hearing the per unit material and labor cost, we have calculated the total cost of material and labor is this much. We have added the overheads to get the total cost divided by number of units. We have got the per unit cost. If you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post your queries. Yes, everyone, any doubts, guys? Aisha Khan, any doubts? See, it's a very simple concept wherein the material cost and labor cost is given, but we have to charge the overheads to these three products to calculate the total cost. So we have first calculated the absorption rate, that is total overheads divided by total hours. We have got 17 per hour. So 17 into 2,000, 17 into 2,250, and 17 into 1,600. So we have got the total overheads, that is 34, 38,250, and 27,200. The total will be 99,450. So in short, the 99,400 is 99,450 is distributed in the ratio of labor hours, nothing else. So we have got the total cost. This is my total cost divided by number of units. We have got the per unit cost. Any doubts, guys? Manvi, again I repeat, Manvi, again I repeat, my dear, the rupees 10 per hour is the cost, and this data is given in minutes, that is 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and 60 minutes. So that's why I have divided it by 60. Or you can say 30 minutes is what? Half hour. 60 minutes is what? Full hour. And 45 minutes is, we can say 45 divided by 60.75 hour. Into 10, we will get the final answer. Anyone else having any doubts? Pranav, Shikha, Manvi, Abdullah, any doubts, guys? It's up to you, Mr. Balachandran. You can calculate the per unit and you can multiply it by number of units. You will get the total cost. Whatever it is, whatever convenient for you, you can solve in that way. Both the approaches are correct. 17 is the overhead cost per unit. What is 17? This is the overhead cost per hour, not even per unit. It is 17 is what? The overhead cost per hour. So herein we have worked for 30 minutes. So the overhead cost will be how much? 17 into 30, 17 divided by 2, it will be somewhat 8.5. So 17 is the overhead cost per hour. So this is what you guys have learned in overheads. See, I have not discussed anything new till now. हम लोगों ने activity based costing start ही नहीं किया है. This was a part of overhead and it is already covered and discussed in detail in overhead. Now let's start with this chapter, in fact, activity based costing. So now let's get back to the question. I hope, Miss Sania, your query is resolved. So now let's move toward the next part of the question. The second question, prepare a statement for management showing the product cost of each product using activity based costing. Now we have to calculate the cost using activity based costing. Now guys, first and the foremost thing what you have to do in activity based costing, as what we did in overheads, we have to calculate the absorption rate. So the first thing what we have to do is that we have to calculate the absorption rate. Now see, in traditional system, there was only one basis of absorption, that is labor hours. But herein, in activity-based costing, there are 3 activities. And for every activity, a separate absorption rate will be calculated. So the first thing what we have to do is, we have to calculate the absorption rate. Statement showing calculation of absorption rate as per activity based costing. So the first column will be what? Activities. What all activity we are doing. What all activities are given in the question? First is material handling. This is my activity. Second one is storage cost. And the third one is electricity. So there are 3 activities of the organization. Now the amount is also given, that is the cost relating to a particular activity. It is 29,100 for material handling, 31,200 for storage cost, and 39,150 for electricity. The total will be the same, that is 99,450. Let me cross check the total 1 second. Now, for every activity, there will be a separate basis of absorption. We call it as cost driver. So for material handling, it will be weight of material handled. Weight of material handled. For storage cost, number of batches of material. Number of batches of material. And for this one, it is number of machine operation. First one is the weight of material, then number of batches of material, and number of machine operation. So now when talking about the weight of material handle, it means kitna raw material use hua. So herein, when talking about the weight of material, I'm adding few working notes. For A, B, and C. When talking about the weight of material, it is given that every unit of A require 4 kgs. Every unit of A require 4 kgs and total 4,000 units are manufactured. So total 16,000 kgs. Every unit require 4 kgs and total 4,000 units are manufactured. So 16,000 kgs for A. For B, it is every units require 6 kgs and total 3,000 units are manufactured. So 6 into 3,000, 18,000. And every unit require 3 kgs of material and total 1,600 units are manufactured. So total weight of material will be how much? $38,800. So total weight of material is how much? 38,800. The second thing is what? The storage cost is dependent upon the number of batches of material, and it is clearly given in the question that for complete production, पूरे production के लिए, how many number of batches are there? For A, it is 10, for B, it is 5, and for C, it is 15. So total batches of material are how much? 30. Further, when talking about the third part, that is electricity, it is on the basis of number of machine operation. Number of machine operation. Again, herein, the number of machine operations are given, but it is given per unit of product. So we have to calculate the total machine operation. So 4,000 units are manufactured for A into 6. So this will be 24,000. For B, it is 3000 units into 3. So this will be 9000. And for C, it is 2 machine operation. So 1600 into 2. So 24,000 plus 9,000 plus 3,200. So this will be 36,200. Why I have multiplied it by number of units? Very simple. It is given per unit. Whereas I have taken directly 30 in case of batches of material because it is given for complete production. Batches of material is given for complete production, whereas the machine operations are given for per unit of production. So that's why I have done this calculation. So this comes to 36. Now the last part, absorption rate. So very simple, guys. When talking about material handling, it is to be absorbed on the basis of weight of material. So 29,100 is the total amount divided by weight of material is 38,800. So we will get 0.75 per kg will be my absorption rate. When talking about storage cost, 31,200 divided by 30, it will be 1040. If you guys have any doubts or queries in this part, you guys can please post your queries. So when you find a question on activity-based costing, this is the first table what you have to prepare. Herein, these units are straight away not given in the question. So we did this calculation to calculate these two amounts. If you guys have any doubts till this part, you guys can please post your query. See, in overheads, we were getting only one absorption rate. So this activity-based costing says what? That how can you absorb all the overheads on a single basis? I have a better approach. So it says that first identify the activities. So these are the activities. For every activity, there will be a separate basis of absorption. We call it as cost driver. So the amount divided by units of the cost driver, we will get the absorption rate. I hope now the concepts, I hope you are thorough with the concepts now. That is, these are the activities. These cost driver are what? The basis of absorption for that activity. So herein, there is only one basis, that is labor hour. Herein, for every activity, there is a separate basis of absorption. So accordingly, we have calculated the absorption rate. So now, if you guys have any doubts, you guys can please post. Okay, there is a query, sir. How come you got 30? See, it is given in the question straight away the number of batches of material, that is 10 plus 5 plus 15. So now waiting for your queries, guys. Anyone having any doubts or queries, you guys can please post. Apurv, hopefully your query is resolved. This is the best way to present in exam. Nivetha, this is the best way to present in exams. So that's why I'm just, I'm requesting you that once I am done with the explanation, I request you guys to copy this part. So this is the best and the easiest way to present in exams. So when the question is asking you to calculate, to solve the question using activity-based costing, this table you have to prepare because you have to calculate the absorption rate for each and every activity. So this is the best table. That is activity, the amount, the basis of absorption for activity, we call it as cost driver. The units of the cost driver, that is the weight of material is 38,800. The number of batches of material is 30. The total number of machine operations are 36,200. So these are the units and we can easily calculate the absorption rate. Wait, let me complete the explanation first. See, if they are asking us to calculate in minutes, we can calculate in minutes. If they are asking us to calculate it in hours, we can calculate it. It in hours. So it is 0.75 per kg. It is 1040 per batch, and it is per machine operation. Very simple. 29,100 divided by 38,800, we have got 0.75. 31,200 divided by 30. 31,200 divided by 30, we have got 1040. And 39,150 divided by 36,200, we have got 1.081. I hope, Hima, Bindu, your query is resolved. Yes, Sanya, Balachandra, Ritik Gupta, Nitin, any doubts? Kiran Kumar, Pranav, any doubts, guys? How can it be in negative, Virendra? The amount is given, the units are given, so we have to calculate the rate, that is amount divided by units, we will get the rate. The amount cannot be in negative. How can you say that overheads can be in negative? Overheads negative में हो ही नहीं सकते भाई. No chance at all. Yes, Ritika, any doubt? Sanya, Balachandran, Kiran Kumar, Nitin. So now we are done with this exercise. Now we will prepare the final statement. So those who want to copy this part, first please copy, then I'm going to erase this part and I'll be solving the question as per activity-based costing. So giving you 2 minutes time to copy this explanation, please. Now let's go with the final calculation, that is statement showing calculation of total cost. Material and labor, we have already discussed how to calculate. So let's start with material. So material cost is 40 for A. Sorry, 8 for A, 12 for B, and for C, it is 6. And talking about labor cost, so 5. Now let's start with overheads. See, earlier there was only one basis of absorption and we got the rate 17 per hour. So 17 into hours, we got the total overheads, and this is how we got the total cost. But now herein there are 3 activity and 3 absorption rate. So let's start with the first activity, that is material handling. See, the rate is 0.75 per kg. And when talking about the weight of material in kgs, we have already calculated that is 16,000, 18,000, and 4,800. So 16,000 into 0.75. So this will be 12,000 for A. That is 16,000 into 0.75. Similarly, 18,000 into 0.75. This will be for B. So this will be 13,500. And last is 4,800 into 0.75. This will be 3,600. So this one is over now. Next is storage cost. It is dependent upon per batch. So when talking about the number of batches, for A, it is 10, for B, it is 5, and for C, it is 15. So 10 into 1040, that is 10,400. 5 into 1040. So this will be 5,200. This will be 15 into 1040. That is 15,600. Because storage cost is dependent upon number of batches. Now, electricity cost 1.081 per machine operation. $1.081. So the number of machines operations are 24,000, 9,000, and 3,200. So this will be 25956. This is 9733. And this is 3461. So we can easily calculate the total cost now. That is 52,000 is material and labor, 12,000, 10,400, 25,956. If we divide it by number of units, we'll get the cost per unit. So this is the way to solve this question. If you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post your query. So this is the best way to solve the question, wherein the first thing is prepare this statement, calculate the absorption rate, thereafter solve this, calculate the total cost or unit cost. So waiting for your queries now. I have taken the figures till full decimal. So even if you multiply it by 1.08, you will get, I have ignored the decimal and calculated it accordingly. That's why these figures are not matching. I have taken the complete decimal. You can follow this approach. You can follow the alternate approach also. Both the approaches are correct. There will be a slight change in answer, but yes, these both the answers are correct. Don't worry, guys. This total cost I have divided by number of units. We will get the per unit cost. I'm saying I have taken the full decimal figure, that is 39,150 divided by 36,200. So 1,00356 divided by 4,000. Ritika Gupta, when talking about the labor, see the rate is 10 into 30 minutes divided by 60 minutes. So 30 minutes divided by 60 minutes is what? Half hour. So 10 into 30 by 60, 10 into 45 by 60, and 10 into 60 by 60. I have not taken 1.081. I have taken the full decimal. That is 39,150 divided by 36,200. Whatever the figures that appeared in the calculator, I have taken all the figures. But alternatively, even if you take 1.081 into 24,000, 1.081 into 9,000, 1.081 into 3,200, the answers what you are getting is also correct. Don't worry, guys. See, ultimately, when talking about this figure now, I have taken 39,150 into divided by 36,200. Whatever the figure, the long tail decimal, into 4,000, into 3,000, into 1,600. But if you multiply 1.081 directly with 24,000, 9,000, 3,200, this approach is also correct. Anyone else having any doubts? Waiting for your queries, guys. I request you guys to copy this explanation, giving you 2 minutes time. In the meanwhile, who have whatever the queries you guys have, you guys can please post. Why there is difference in figure? I hope you guys are thorough with it. Anyone having any doubts? Pranav, Shikha, anyone? Shahid, Karthik, Bhaskar, Hima, Virendra, Pallavi, Anuradha, Bunny, Niveta, Santya. Any doubts, guys? I request you guys to please copy this explanation. So, guys, let's take a break of 15 minutes. I'll be back after 15 minutes with two more questions. And in fact, there is one more session on activity-based costing. So we will discuss few advanced problems also. So let's take a break of 15 minutes. Admin sir. Admin sir, are you there? ब्रेक डाल दीजिए ना प्लीज. Welcome back, my friends, after a much needed break. So now let's start with one more question on activity-based costing. I request you guys to please open your study material. I'll be discussing illustration number 3 now. I request you guys to please open your study material. I'll be discussing illustration number 3 now. There are a few queries. Let me check. Activity-based costing is different and absorption costing is different. Absorption costing is the traditional approach. Activity-based costing is a new approach. ABC is activity-based costing. Don't get confused with the name of the company and ABC. ABC I'm using is for activity-based costing. Absorption costing is the traditional costing that what we have discussed in overheads. See, Srinivasan, you can solve it with either of the ways. It's up to you. I find this approach better. That's why I have solved this question using this approach. At the end of the day, the presentation and the final answers matter. Rest, you can solve any question by, 2 to 3 ways. So all the approaches are correct. Good morning, Mr. Sahu. So let's start with illustration number 3. So ABC Limited manufactures 2 types of machine equipment, Y and Z, and apply or absorbed overheads on the basis of direct labor hours. So herein, as per the traditional approach, they are absorbing the overheads using direct labor hours. The budgeted overheads and the direct labor hours for the month of December are given, that is 12,42,500 are the overheads and 20,000 are the hours respectively. The information about the company product is as follows, wherein total 2,500 units of Y and 3,125 units of Z is manufactured. The material cost is given per unit and the labor cost per unit is also given. Now, ABC Limited overheads of 12,42,500 can be identified with 3 major activities. So herein in this company, there are 3 major activities. That is, order processing is 2,10,000, machine processing it is 8,75,000, and product inspection that is 1,57,500. These activities are driven by the number of order processed, machine hours worked, and inspection hours respectively. So again, the most important part of the question, the major headache of the question is anyways given in the question directly. That is no need to do exercise that kaun si activity ka kaun sa cost driver hoga. The question has clearly specified that this will be the cost driver for this activity, just like illustration number 1. In the coming session, we'll be discussing few problems wherein we have to do the exercise of identifying the activity, identifying the cost driver, कि किस एक्टिविटी का क्या कॉस्ट ड्राइवर होगा. So this part I'll be discussing in the coming session. So right now we are discussing the basic question wherein the cost driver is clearly given for a particular activity. So herein there are 3 activity: order processing, machine processing, and product inspection. And the details are also given for Y and Z. Now, assuming use of direct labor hours to absorb oblique apply the overheads to the production, compute the unit manufacturing cost of equipment Y and Z if the budgeted manufacturing volume is attained. Okay, so we have to calculate the total unit cost as per traditional costing, and in second question they are asking us to calculate the unit cost using activity based costing. So let's start with this illustration. Again, it's a very simple question. This question I am discussing for refreshing the concept or revising the concepts what I have discussed in illustration number 1, so that at least you guys can understand that these are the steps what we need to follow while solving the question. So again, the same approach, the same way we'll be solving the question. Illustration number 2. First, what we did was we calculated the absorption rate. So my total overheads were how much? 12,42,500 divided by my total labor hours are 20,000. So we'll get the rate per hour. That is 12,42,500 divided by 20,000. So 62.125 per labor hour. Now statement showing calculation of unit cost. So there are two products, Y and Z. When talking about material cost, it is given 300 per unit and 450 per unit. When talking about labor cost, it is given 450 per unit and 600 per unit. Now, since the question is asking us to calculate only the unit cost, 1 second, let me check. So the question is asking us to calculate the unit cost only. So let's start with let's write overheads directly. This is another way to solve the question. So overheads, it is 62.125 per hour. We have got the absorption rate, it is 62.125 per hour. And when talking about the number of hours for Y, it is 3 hours. It is given in the question, guys. Do refer the question. It is 3 hours for Y and 4 hours for Z. $186.375 and 248.5. So we can easily calculate the total cost. $1,298.5. So this is the total cost as per the traditional approach, wherein the material cost, labor cost is given. We have calculated the absorption rate as per labor hour, and the labor hours are given for Y it is 3 and for Z it is 4. That's it. Now let's start with the second part, that is activity based costing. Again, the same way. Statement showing calculation of absorption rate. The first thing is what? The activity. So there are three activities. The first one is order processing. Second one is machine processing, and third one is product inspection. The total amount is also given for all the three items. That is, it is 2,10,875 and 157,500. 2,10,000, 8,75,000, and 157,500. This master chart you have to prepare in each and every question. Now further, the cost drivers are also given, that is on the basis of absorption. So cost drivers. So for order processing, it is orders processed, orders processed, machine hours worked, and inspection hours. So the number of orders processed are given, that is 600, 50,000 and 15,000. 600, 50,000 and 15,000. So we can easily calculate the so this will be 350 per order. If you guys have any doubts till now, you guys can please post your queries. Again, I'm following the same process what I have followed in illustration 1 to bring uniformity in the solution, or in fact in the pattern of solution. So this process you have to follow in every question. Now there are two equipment. So now we have to calculate the total cost of these two products. So let's start with material and labor. $300 and $450, $450 and $600. So this is $750, 105. So we have got the prime cost per unit. Now overheads, we have to calculate it in total. You can calculate it per unit also, but the calculation will increase. So better calculate the total overhead divided by units. We will get the overheads per unit. So when talking about overheads, the first one is order processing. So 350 per order. 350 per order. And order processed for Y is 350 and for Z it is 250. So 350 into 350, this is 122,500. This is 87,500. Machine processing. 17.5 per machine hour. So 23,000. So it comes to 4,02,500. So this will be 4,72,500. Now next is product inspection. It is 10.5 per inspection hour into 4,000 hours. So this comes to 42,000. One lakh 15,500. So total overheads will be 675,500. Per unit overheads will be divided by number of units. The number of units are 3125. Similarly for Y also 120 to 500. 567 divided by 2500. So total cost per unit will be this one and this one, 976.8. One two double 6.16. So this is the cost per unit as per ABC, and this is the cost per unit as per traditional. So again, the same process I have followed in this question also. If you guys have any doubts or queries relating to this question or the process, you guys can please put up your queries. I have taken the direct material cost also per unit and the labor cost also per unit. Where I have included 450 is what my direct labor cost. See, herein, this part we are talking about overheads, and the overheads is absorbed on the basis of labor hours. So we are not, so this is only overheads, not labor cost. Labor cost is 450 and 600, and the overheads are absorbed on the basis of labor hour. See, overheads are incurred as a whole. I request you, Vedahi, to refer my previous session on overheads. You will be able to understand what I'm doing. I think you are still not thorough with the concepts of overhead. So my point is 450, 600 is my labor cost, first thing. Second thing, when talking about overheads, overheads are incurred as a whole. कोई particular product के लिए overheads नहीं होते. Overheads are incurred as a whole. So to charge the overheads to these two products, we have to calculate the absorption rate. This part I have discussed in overhead. So to charge the overheads to these two products, we have to absorb the overheads. So here in my total overheads are 12,42,500. And the question is asking me to absorb the overheads on the basis of total labor hours. So my total labor hours are 20,000. So accordingly, overheads are how much? 62.125 per labor hour. This is the absorption rate. So in short, in simple language, per hour overheads is how much? 62.125. So in product Y, we have worked for 3 hours. So my overheads will be 186.375. And in product Z, we have worked for 4 hours. So my overheads will be how much? 248.5. So I request you, Vedahi, to please refer my previous session. Pallavi Jha, can you please elaborate? See, again, this is overhead per unit, this is labor cost per unit, and this is material cost per unit. Please check whether the question. Pooja, it's up to you. Here the question is asking only. Here the question is only asking us to calculate the unit cost. That's why I have not calculated the total cost. Okay, Bhavna Garg, sir, order processing overhead cost कैसे calculate किया? So Bhavna, order processing cost is 2,10,000. It is given in the question. Unit 600 are given in the question. So it is 350 per order. So ordering absorption rate is what? 350 per order. So how I have calculated? See, the number of orders. The number of orders is how much? 350 orders processed for Y. For Y, total 350 orders are processed into the rate is 350 per order. Similarly, again, in case of Z also, the rate is what? 350 per order. And the order processed are how much? 250. So this is how this amount is calculated. Again, when talking about machinery processing, it is 17.5 per machine hour. So 17.5 for every machine hour, and machine hours worked is 23,000 in case of Y. So 23,000 into 17.5 and 27,000 into 17.5. And similarly, inspection also 4,000 into 10.5 and 11,000 into 10.5. Okay, Yashashwini sir, how come you get the total? So see, this is my prime cost 750 and 1050, and this is my overhead cost per unit. Overheads per unit. So 750 plus 226.8. 750 plus 226.8. And similarly, here also 1050 plus 216.16. So this is how I got this total of this one. And when talking about how come I have calculated per unit, see, my total overheads are 5,67,000 and my units are how much? See, units are how much? 2,500 for Y. How many units for Y? 2,500 units. And for Z, it is 3,125 units. So 576 my overheads divided by units, we will get the overheads per unit. Similarly, 675 500 divided by units, we will get the cost per unit. Pooja, again, the question is asking only to calculate the per unit cost. So it's up to you. All the approaches are correct. See, herein the question is asking only to calculate the per unit cost. That's why I have taken prime cost per unit plus overhead cost per unit. This is how I got the total cost per unit. See, Pallavi Jha, sir, 450 is the total overhead cost because 3 hours into 150 per material cost is per unit. See, Pallavi, read the question carefully. The first table is given per unit. That is, the direct material cost is 300 per unit and 450 per unit. And direct labor cost also for product Y, it is 3 hours are required for every unit and they are paid at the rate 150 per hour. So it is 450 per unit, not in total. I think there is a printing mistake in the study material. So in my words, what I want to express is that it is 450 per unit and 600 per unit. This part is not covered in syllabus, Srinivasan. Don't want to create controversy in the session. So please, I won't be able to answer as of now. You can write a mail to me. I'll explain it in detail. Don't worry. See, the cost driver will always be given, but yes, in some cases, straight away it is not given in the question that for this activity, this will be the cost driver. For this activity, this will be the cost driver. So in that case, we have to identify. So we'll be discussing few more questions for better understanding. Anyone else having any doubts? Pallavi? Okay, Virendra Sharma, any doubts? Karan Kumar, any doubts? I hope your queries are resolved. Deepak Bagade, Srinivasa, any doubts? Pooja, any doubts? Bhavna Garg, any doubts? Vedahi, any doubts? I hope all your queries are resolved. Okay, let me check the portal also. So Ritika Gupta, sir, in statement showing calculation of cost, how did you calculate the total cost per unit? So very simple, Ritika, this is what my prime cost. We can call it as A. This is what my overhead cost per unit, it is B. So it is A plus B. Or in short, 750 plus 226.8. This is how my total cost is calculated. Ritika Gupta, it's Ritika Gupta, hopefully your query is resolved. Further, the labor cost is also given per unit only. We'll try to cover this part in detail again while revising this chapter in the next in day after tomorrow. So don't worry, Vedant. I'll be taking one more question today. Don't worry, and I'll be discussing 3-4 more questions in the coming session. Please explain the calculation of overheads once again, sir. So order processing, total 350 orders for Y and total 250 orders for Z. And it is the absorption rate we have calculated is 350 per order. So 350 per order into number of orders is 350. This is how I got this total. Again, 350 per order into number of orders are 250. So 350 into 250, it is 87,500. For machine processing also, so for machine processing also, we have calculated the rate per hour. That is 17.5 per hour into the number of machine hours. So when talking about the number of machine hours, it is 23,000 in case of Y. 1 second. So it is 23,000 in case of Y. So 23,000 into 17.5 and 27,000 into 17.5. This is how these figures are calculated. And similarly, again 4,000 into 10.5 and 11,000 into 10.5. I hope, Dipali, your query is resolved. Now, when talking about the cost distortion part, it talks about the difference in cost. So the difference in cost, taking absorption costing as the base. So herein the question is asking us to calculate the cost difference. So herein taking what? Absorption costing as the base. So herein we can say that as per absorption costing, the cost is less. Herein, as per absorption costing, the cost is less. 1 second. Herein, as per absorption costing, the cost is less. So we can say there is a cost distortion of 40.42 negative. And when talking about product Z, the cost is more in case of absorption costing. So we can say it's the cost distortion is on the positive side. So it's only the difference of the cost. You have to take base as absorption costing only. So now let's discuss one more question, illustration number 4. It's a good question and it's a bit different from the questions what we have discussed till now. So let's start with illustration number 4. So let's start with illustration number 4, wherein Hamara Apna Bank offers 3 products. So there are 3 products: deposit, loans, and credit cards. The bank has selected 4 activities for a detailed budgeting exercise following activity-based costing method. The bank want to know the product-wise and the total cost per unit for the selected activity so that prices may be fixed accordingly. The following information is made available to formulate the budget. So let's start with it. So the first activity is ATM service, and the cost relating to that activities are machine maintenance 4 lakh, and further the estimate for the budget period is also given, that is it is all fixed, no change. Rent is 2 lakh, fully fixed, no change. Currency replenishment cost 1 lakh, expected to be doubled during the budget period. So the total cost is 7 lakh, and the driver for this activity is also given, that is this activity is driven by number of ATM transaction. So activity is given, the cost is given, some information is given for the budgeted period. So we have to incorporate these additional information in the final figures, and the cost driver is also given. Further, computer processing is 5 lakh. Half of the amount is fixed and no change is expected. The variable portion is expected to increase to 3 times the current level. So 50% is fixed, 50% is variable. The variable portion is going to increase by 3 times in the budgeted period. The activity is driven by number of computer transaction. So again, the cost driver is given. Issuing statement, again, presently 3 lakh statements are made in the budgeted period. 5 lakh statements are expected. For every increase of 1 lakh statement, 1 lakh rupees is the budgeted increase. Again, the activity is driven by number of statements. Further, computer inquiries are 2 lakh and it is estimated to increase by 80% in the budgeted period. The activity is driven by telephone minutes. Further, the number of ATM transaction, computer processing transaction, statements, and telephone minutes are also given. The bank budgets a volume of 58,600 deposit accounts, 13,000 loan account, and 13,000 credit accounts. So the units are given. Calculate the budgeted rate for each activity. So first and the foremost thing is we have to calculate the budgeted rate for each activity. They are asking us to calculate the absorption rate for each activity. Prepare the budget cost statement activity wise and compute the budgeted product cost per account for each product using first and second above. So let's start with this question. Calculate the budget. So let's start with the budgeted cost first of all, because we have to see the present cost is given. We have to first calculate the budgeted cost. So this is illustration number 4. Now see, when talking about the ATM service, when talking about ATM service, when talking about ATM service, there are 3 activities. Sorry, there are 3 costs: machine maintenance, It's going to remain fixed, no change. So 4 lakh, no change. Rent again 2 lakh, fully fixed, no change. And remaining currency replenishment, it is going to be double during the budgeted period. It's going to be double during the budgeted period. So it will be from 1 lakh, it will be 2 lakh. So my total ATM service will be costing rupees 8 lakh now. So this will be the cost of this activity, 8 lakh. The next is computer processing. It is given that the half of this amount is fixed and no change is expected. So fixed amount is how much? 2,50,000. And the variable portion is expected to be 3 times the current cost. So it means remaining is what? 250. It will be 3 times. Into 3. So this will be 7,50,000. So total cost will be how much? 10 lakh. So this is all what about computer processing. For issuing statements, this is a special question. So this is the additional working what we are doing. See, presently 3 lakh statements are made in presently 3 lakh statements are made in the budgeted period. 5 lakh statements are expected. For every 1 lakh statement, 1 lakh rupees is the budgeted increase. So presently 3 lakh statements are printed. Now in budgeted period, 5 lakh statements are expected. That is 2 lakh more. And for every 1 lakh, the cost will increase by 1 lakh. So 18 lakh plus 2 lakh, 20 lakh will be the issuing statement cost. So it will be 20 lakh. 18 lakh plus 2 lakh for the additional 2 lakh statements. Further computer inquiries. They are saying they are going to increase by, the cost is going to increase by 80%. So this will be 3,60,000. So herein we have calculated the budgeted overheads for the period. So now herein we have got the overheads, that is 8 lakh, 10 lakh, 20 lakh and 360. Now we have to prepare a statement showing calculation of absorption rate as what we are doing from last 2 questions. Statement showing calculation of activity. First is ATM service. It is rupees 8 lakh. Second is computer processing. It is 10 lakh. Third is issuing statement. It is 20 lakh. Next is computer inquiries. It is 3,60,000. Now the cost drivers. So when talking about the the ATM service, the cost driver is what? Number of ATM transaction. For computer processing, the number of computer transaction. It is given in the question itself in the master table. For issuing statements, number of statements. Telephone minutes. Now units and this is the additional exercise what we have done, because the question is asking us to calculate the cost as for the budgeted period, not for the current period. Now, when talking about the number of ATM transaction, it is 1,50,000 and 50,000. So this will be 2 lakh. For the number of computer processing transaction, so it is 15 plus 2, 17 plus 3, 20 lakh. For issuing statements, it is 5 lakh. And the number of telephone minutes are 7,20,000. So we can calculate the absorption rate as 4 per transaction. It is 0.5. It is again 4 and again it is 0.5. So now the absorption rate is ready. Now there are 3 products: deposit, loans, and credit card. So instead of A, B, C, it is deposits, loans, and credit card. You have to use these rates for these 4 services and calculate the total cost. So this is the way you guys have to solve the question. If you guys have any doubts, then you guys can please post your queries. This part you guys can solve it on your own. This is the statement. Calculation of cost. So first one is ATM service. So the rate is 4 rupees for every transaction. So for deposit, it is 150 into 4, that is 6 lakh. For this one, it will be nil. And for this one, it will be 2 lakh. Computer processing. It is 0.5 per transaction. So 15 lakh, 2 lakh, and 3 lakh. So this will be 7,50,000. This will be 1 lakh. And this will be 1,50,000. Further issuing statement. It is again 4 for every statement. So 350 into 4, this is 14 lakh. This will be 2 lakh. This will be 4 lakh. And last, computer inquiry. I'm simply multiplying the transaction into 4, the number of computer transaction into 0.5, number of statement into 0.4, and telephone minutes into 0.5. So it is 1,80,000. 90,000 and 90,000. So we can calculate the total cost divided by number of units, that is 58,600, 13,000 and 14,000. We'll calculate the total cost divided by my number of units, that is 58,600, 13,000 and 14,000. We'll get the cost per unit. So again, a very easy question. So don't get scared with, okay, naya question, it's a new question, new thing. Nothing is new. Read the question carefully. Half of the work is done if you read the question carefully and patiently. So first, this is the additional exercise we have done in this question because the overheads are not given straight away. The overheads for the activities are not given straight away. So this is the additional exercise what we did. So once we got the overheads, this table we have to prepare and the master chart. Now, if you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post your queries. Sir, repeat issuing statement. See, for issuing statement, 18 lakh is the cost for 3 lakh statements. And it is given in the question that for every additional 1 lakh statements, the additional cost is 1 lakh. So the number of statement increased from 3 lakh to 5 lakh. So 2 lakh extra statement. So the cost will be 2 lakh extra. So 18 lakh plus 2 lakh, 20 lakh. Again, those who want to copy the explanation can please copy. The presentation is a bit different from the study material. Giving you 2 minutes time, guys. Whatever the doubts or queries you have, you guys can please post. Giving you 2 to 3 minutes time. Those who want to copy the explanation can please copy. Nothing is given in the question, and I don't think in this question, this machine hours, labor hours is going to work. Anyone else having any doubts or queries? Ritika Gupta, don't worry. Now you will be able to see a homework for you, Ritika. Try to solve the questions what I have discussed first in this class. Try to solve the question without checking the answer. Once you are done with the calculation, once you are done with the question, then check the final answer. It will take time, but don't worry, you will be able to solve it. So first solve the question on your own and then finally check the answer. Don't refer study material for silly doubts. Better see the question, try to solve the question, you will be able to. But I hope, you are thorough with what I have discussed in today's session. There is one more session on activity-based costing. I'll be discussing 3 to 4 additional questions also. So after that, I assure you, you will be able to. Don't worry. Practice is the key and practice is the only solution for your problem. Anything else, Ritika? Practice is the key. See, Irfan, read the question carefully. That currency replenishment cost is expected to be double during the budgeted period. So I have already doubled it. Yes, the question is not so difficult. The point is you have to focus and stick to the concept. That is the key. This information is given in the question, the number of units for deposit, loans and credit card. Gurminder Kaur. Please read the question. As I'm mentioning again and again, that half of the problem is solved if you read the question carefully. Anyone else having any doubt? Virendra Sharma, Irfan, Nitin, Hardik, Pooja, Bhavna, Dipali, Nayan Patil, Shahid, Deepak, Dipali, Anuradha, Pallavi, Shikha, Pooja, Yashashwini, Karan. Anyone having any doubts? Perfect. 12 to 16, Neru. Thank you so much, Ritika. Thank you so much, Mr. Goswami. So guys, it's already 9:35. So see you guys day after tomorrow. There is one more session on activity-based costing. I'll be discussing 3 to 4 more questions wherein you have to identify कि किस activity का कौन सा driver होगा. So we'll be discussing bit tricky question that किस activity का कौन सा cost driver होगा. Rest, the entire process will be the same. That is, first, absorption rate as per traditional costing, the cost statement as per traditional costing, then this statement, and then finally this statement. Rest, everything will be same. The most trickiest part, that is किस activity का कौन सा cost driver होगा, you have to identify. So this I'll be teaching you in the coming session. So thank you so much, guys. God bless you. Enjoy your day. Try to solve all the questions what I have discussed once again, and practice hard. Again, do read or revise the theory part of the study material. If you guys have any query, I'll try to address all your queries in the coming session. So till then, try to solve the questions of activity-based costing. As far as the concepts are concerned, I have discussed all the concept. So it's more of the practice question I'll be discussing again and again. That's it. Nothing more than that. So thank you so much, guys. Have a great day. Enjoy your day.